Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com here with the video on what I believe is the all-around best craftable set to ever hit the Elder Scrolls Online. And that's Order's Wrath, a 3-trait craftable from the High Isles, the latest chapter in ESO. This set gets critical bonus similar to Medusa's and Mother's Sorrow 5-piece, but an added 8% critical damage and critical healing bonus, which isn't a major or minor buff. Thus, it stacks on top of major or minor buffs, making an insane all-around 5-piece. I did an experiment on stream where I put this on my PvE Magplar, my Godplar build, and took it through Vatashram Hollows. I cleared it on Veteran, even with one death, in 23 minutes, skipping all the mechanics on the final boss, 100 to 0, even through the portals. Destroyed it. I took it through Vet Marsalok, Imperial City Prison, and it just melted everything. I also did a Parse experiment, Mother Sorrow, Order Wrath, and Bosse, which is considered best in slot. And of course, I took Order's Wrath in a PvP battleground on a Stamina Nightblade using a fully craftable setup, and I think you'll be surprised. So a long-winded intro to say you're going to want to watch this video on how to use this set, how to craft it, where to get it, and some good build ideas for one of the best overall craftable sets to ever hit Elder Scrolls Online. And even if you don't own High Isles, I got a trick around how to get this set. You ready? Let's get started. Okay, we're in the High Isles at the crafting station. So here's Tamriel. High Isles is located just to the north of Somerset. You go here, High Isles and Amanos. When you get here, you'll usually start at the West Bay Way Shrine, and then you'll walk up a little left to Order's Wrath Station, which has all the little stations that you can craft in. There's a trick around this, so you can get this crafting station from a friend in your house, even if you don't own the High Isles, through these attunable blacksmithing or clothing woodworking stations. So you come here to the High Isles, or someone does in your guild, and you attune it. You can get this through crafting writs and writ vouchers. Once you have this attunable crafting station right here, you pack it up and you can go to your house. So someone in your guild can basically get all the Order's Wrath crafting stations, bring it to a guild hall, and then you'll have everything there, even if you don't own the DLC or chapter. And here's an example from our guild hall in Guildy Leah on PCNA. You can see all of the crafting stations in alphabetical order, basically every crafting station in the entire game right here. So everyone in the guild can access this area and get all of the crafting station in the game, regardless if you have High Isles or not. It's a workaround. So now I'm going to jump on my Templar and show you the Parse comparison using the exact same gear sets. Mother Sorrow versus Bosse, which is considered best in slot, versus Order's Wrath. And let's see what this actually does. And here we are on the Godplar. What I used was Deadly Strikes on my jewelry and front bar, Nirn Charge, Narayaneth Monster Helm, so there's going to be some RNG there, back bar, Maelstrom Inferno, and then the 5-piece sets. So I started off with Mother Sorrow first. Very simple 5-piece set that gives you a lot of crit chance, but Order's Wrath gives you that increased crit damage and crit healing. Then I switched to Bosses. I don't have Perfected, I just used the normal version, which is about a 1 or 2% difference than the Perfected version. If you don't know, this set really gives you a lot of damage if you can tank your magic, meaning you need to have low magic sustain throughout the parse. And my parse with Bosses, I started right around 50% magic. So I just spammed Harness Magic over and over so I could get a little bit to start. And then Order's Wrath, bunch of crit damage. I used 3 mil parse dummy for these examples just because that's what the average player is going to experience in veteran dungeons or arenas. Not so much a veteran trial and or a hard mode. That's what we use. Let's see the results. And the first parse up is Mother Sorrow coming in at an active combat time of 1 minute and 12 seconds with DPS 41,569. Turns out I didn't even have a Munda Stone through all these 3 parses, but that's where we landed on a 3 mil dummy. Not too bad. Now for Bosse, which is considered the #1 best in slot magic DPS right now. We got 42,686. That is tanking my magic to 50% at the start. So that's not even a dramatic increase over Mother Sorrow, which is very easy to get in the Overland. This might be a dramatically different result using 21 mil dummy, but for the average player, Bosse really didn't perform that much better. And now for Order's Wrath, coming in at 1 minute 10 second active combat time, 42,588, right behind Bosse. For the average player, this is going to be an incredible 5-piece, whether you're doing DPS or you're doing healing, because remember, it has crit healing done. It's going to become less and less effective the more coordinated and more serious groups you run. Reason being is there's a crit damage cap at 125%. So if you're running Khajiit, you're running aggressive Warhorn, and all these things that stack a ton of crit damage on top of each other, you're not going to see the benefit of this 5-piece. But for the average player that doesn't have all these coordinated buffs, 100% uptime, playing solo, dungeons, arenas, pugging, doing normal trials, this is going to be an incredible 5-piece. I don't think Order's Wrath in PvE has any advantage for tanks, but I do think it's a strong thing to get right away for healers as well, because it does have a lot of crit, which you need, and crit healing by 8% is not bad for pretty much any build. When I took this exact same build, Order's Wrath, Narayaneth, and Deadly through actual combat, using Veteran Vatashram Hollow and burning the last boss down with literally zero mechanics. When I say zero mechanics, what happened was it starts at 100%. I burned it down so fast, I didn't even get the death lines coming in to kill me. And when I came out of the portals, it had such low HP at about 30%. I just burned it, no mechanics. So it was a straight 100 to 0, making the last boss incredibly easy solo. When I did Veteran Dungeon, we did Marsalok, which is one of the hardest, longest Veteran dungeons in the game. Marsalok, we blew through and crushed the last boss, no problem. So it actually works on paper for the average player, and it actually works in combat for the average player. Now, what should you do if you're a PvEer who wants to get this? I would personally recommend putting this on the body at all times. There's a lot of different options you can go with to pair this depending on your class. There's a million mythics to pair. I like Narayaneth as a monster helm, especially for the Magpar and some other classes like the Magic Nightblade. This is really good. Don't sleep on something like Stormfist. Believe it or not, even on magic builds, it can do an incredible amount of damage and there's no babysitting. What's considered the top DPS is Kelnar's Nightmare. The problem with that is you have to babysit light and heavy attacks and be perfect with your weaving, and also if someone else is running it, you're not going to see the benefit. So when in doubt, get something like Narayaneth. It's base game, very easy to pair with it, and put Order's Wrath on your body. Now that leaves the front. What do you do with the front? Deadly Strikes is really good on Magic Dragonites, Stamina Dragonites, Stamina Templars, and Templars, because a lot of your damage is coming through damage over time, and you're not spending a whole lot of time doing your main spamble, and that's damage over time on the Plar anyways. So for non-elemental users, you could run something like War Maiden. Another really good set to run paired this with is Togvins. Togvins comes in medium armor, so you can run it on the jewelry in the front bar weapon for basically anyone. What that's going to do is give you the minor force buff. Typically, I run Barb Trap or Channel Acceleration for this buff. Barb Trap is incredibly hard hitting, even on magic builds, but you have to place it down, you have to arm it, so there's some managing with that, and it takes up a skill on your bar. With Togvins, you get tons of crit chance and really high uptime with this. That'll free up another bar slot, making your stuff a lot easier to manage, plus the uptime on Togvins is really, really good, and you could always put it on the body and or weapons if you're a medium armor user. Another option is going to be Kinzra's Wrath. This is Black Drake Villa, and why I don't necessarily always recommend this for people is because it's light and heavy attacks, so you really don't get any benefit until you have 5 consecutive light or heavy attacks within a small window. That's going to grant you Major Berserk, which gives you 10% raw damage. That's huge. But the downside is, if you're playing in an unreliable group and you have to go back, you have to heal, you have to get out of mechanics, you're not able to stay in melee range, you're really not going to see high uptime on Kinra's anyways, and you need something like for the average player that's just pretty much easy to set and forget and do a lot of damage. For magic and stamina users that don't want a proc or something you have to babysit like Kinra's or Togvins, don't sleep on Pillars of Nirn. This comes from Falkreath Hold, and what it does is it does a lot of damage in an AoE, and it's a proc set, so you can put on your front bar and have another weapon like a Maelstrom Arena weapon on your back bar. This is going to go well as a magic or stamina DPS user, and I highly recommend it. So those are some options of things to pair with this, but I consider this one of the best craftable sets in the game, and especially in PvE. It was super noticeable as I've played a million different sets of my Magic Templar, False Gods, Overwhelming Surge, Bosses, Mother Zara, War Maiden, you name it. This held its own in real actual combat and in a parse dummy. But let's switch gears and talk about PvP, where surprisingly enough, it did really, really well. All right, so I threw something together and paired Order's Wrath with, I think, the next strongest craftable set for the average player, and that's Wretched Vitality. Wretched Vitality, too long didn't read, it gives you a ton of resource sustain when you keep a major and or minor buff or debuff. This is very easy to do, and it goes well on any backbar PvP build because almost any skill you cast that gives you armor or your weapon damage or spell damage buff almost always gives you a second minor or major buff. So usually every class has one ability to proc this, giving you a ton of stamina and magic recovery. So I run a stage 3 vampire on this guy, pretty squishy, but the reason I chose Order's Wrath and I kept it on my body at all times is because Nightblade does well with high crit and high crit damage. One of the reasons why is the Shadowy Disguise active skill where you can go stealth. The thing about this is it gives you an auto crit when you come out, whether that's an in cap doing a big burst or a heavy attack, you're guaranteed to land some huge nuke when you come out of stealth. Thus, having crit damage with a 5-piece, having more crit damage if you pick the Khajiit race, and having more crit damage for the Shadow Mundus Stone gives you a huge amount of burst. And then my guy's right around 37% crit on my front bar, so good burst healing when I need it when I'm in trouble. Because remember, the Shadow Mundus Stone, all of these things are going to affect not only crit damage, but crit healing as well. Even right around 40% critical, I was getting 11,000 burst heals via Healthy Offering on my Wood Elf. Not even using optimal race. I was really noticeable. Huge burst damage for craftable. Didn't use a mythic, didn't use a monster helm, and I absolutely love Order's Wrath. I'd recommend picking up Order's Wrath and maybe keeping it on the body all times, or doing a front bar active only in a back bar defensive set like Wretched Vitality. And then you could pair either a mythic, arena weapon, and or a monster helm and have a decent PvP build for pretty much every character. You could also pair this very well with the healer and run some other type of defensive and go a little bit more heavy armor, and bang, anything out the door. This combination with Wretched Vitality, spec a little bit more tanky, a little bit different armor choices, and you're ready to go out the gate as a brand new player. Well, gang, that's a video. Hope you got something out of this. I really think this is very strong and it's going to change the meta. It gives you a lot of flexibility and it's much more simple than doing hardcore trials and having to babysit your magic into or stamina or light and heavy attacks and have some complex thing. Sure, those complex things in gear set can reward you with the top damage in the game, but a lot of times it's just not applicable for an average player, is not super coordinated in the top tiers of trials and dungeons. Same thing with PvP. Don't sleep on this set. Crit damage and crit healing is very good on some specific builds, especially the Nightblade. So pick this up, try it, and let me know what you think. More High Isles videos to come as we explore the mythics, craftable sets, and overland sets. Thanks for watching.